Yo grinders, what's up? This is Characters, and what you're seeing here is my typical live play video that I tend to do in between series just to keep things fresh and mix it up a little bit. So that's what I'm doing today. I'm going to be doing a little bit of live play because I've got some exciting stuff planned for the next month or so, just off the back of the But What's Your Range series, which hopefully you enjoyed. So we're going to be going back to some more exploitative poker again. We've done our sort of focus on GTO, our little taste of it, and on strategies and planning ranges and that kind of thing. And now we're just going to play some hands and not be plugging in so many things and so much detail into stove or looking at exact combos or whatever. We're just going to play some poker and try and make some good exploitative plays and stuff like that. I opened queens on table 3. I'm playing 50 NL today, by the way. I just feel like, yeah, I want to play a bit of 50 NL, basically. I can do a couple of things on the turn here. I'm going to just go ahead and bet again and then check, evaluate some rivers. I can consider check calling a river like that. This guy is like a shorty, could have a hand like ace-king here. I should have like timed down a little bit there rather than insta-checking because it just kind of looks like, I don't know, I'm giving up or something. Okay, so he bets 5 here. His bet sizing is like meh. Probably has a king a lot. But I'm obviously never folding, getting like 4-1 here with like a good bluff catcher. It's just a pretty easy call. He makes a pretty good value bet there, but I think he could go bigger because the kings I opened there are all going to be kings that I'm betting 3 streets of value with there. He's like a fishy player though, obviously. He's like cold calling king 8, so we want to take a note on that. He cold calls king 8, button versus hijack. I'm using my bad keyboard because my good keyboard with the number pad has broken because Apple are incapable of making keyboards that don't break. I've learned this. I love my iMac, but yeah, like I got this keypad, the non-wireless one, basically with the numeric keypad on the side because they don't make it for the wireless one, and then it's just like it broke, so I had to get another one. I thought, okay, maybe I broke it. You know, the cats had spilled a few things on it, but then the other one just broke as well. So yeah, Apple keyboards are shit unless they're wireless. I've learned this. So yeah, I'm going to take a note on him. In just a second, I'm going to 3-bet my ace-king. Man, I can't get used to this new keyboard. It's like ingrained into my brain using the number pad. So sorry if I'm a little bit slow for this video. Just while I get used to this before I get another keyboard that actually works with a number pad. So this guy's like a pretty big fish. We can go ahead and assume. With 10-9 suited here, this guy doesn't seem to be... I can do 2 things here. I don't think that folding is really an option. I can flat, but I'm going to go ahead and 3-bet just because I don't really like flatting against an unknown player in the big blind who could well be a regular. He's 17-17, looks like a reg. I'm going to get squeezed out a lot if he has a reg because this guy is like a non-full stack player that's opened, looks like a fishy or weaker player. So I can imagine that most competent regs are going to squeeze a bit there. So if I was in the big blind, I'd definitely just go ahead and flat that hand. In the small blind there, we need to be not flatting so many hands that we have to fold the squeezes, especially like very playable hands where it's a big shame if we get squeezed. So I like to just go ahead and 3-bet that hand myself and just make it part of my 3-bet bluff range. It makes sense if we're not going to be flatting very much, then we want to have a stronger 3-bet bluff range because there's just more hands that we can play in that spot. I go ahead and 3x on table 3 in the bottom left because Confused 33 is a weaker player. Pretty standard. Just want to get more money into the pot in position against him. Spot this cappuccino from the cafe across the road and it tastes like water. Like it tastes like nothing. I think this is just a video where I rant about all the services I'm unhappy with in life. So yeah, I'll try and focus on the poker now. We get squeezed here. I'm just going to call this a standard fold for now. We don't have any info. This guy looks to be an active regular, but hey ho, not really too much we can do. I'm going to go ahead and c-bet here for a couple of reasons. One is just that I think that I take it down loads and it's just plus EV to bet like half pot here, only needing a third, folds a third at a time. The other reason is that I'm going to make my bet kind of small in the turn just because I want to get called by 10x, by 7x. He seems like a station. I don't want to give him a reason to fold like second or third pair here by blasting it. With 5s, this is obviously an easy value bet on the river as well on table 3. I'm going to go ahead and make it like 780. I think that's good. It's just under 2/3 pot. Seems to be a good amount. I just make it quick as well, just so that he can get into like emotional ego mode where bets come in like bam, 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 one after the other, and he just finds himself hitting the call button because he's a station. So yeah, this is kind of close with fives. Like, I'll go ahead and call. I mean, it's not really great because my opponent is not full stacked. He's probably a weaker player, but he's not full stacked, which kind of sucks. If he was 100 big blinds deep, it'd be a very easy call with fives. With fives on this table, I'm going to fold under the gun. There are just no targets, no fish I'm really looking to play this against in position. If you can hear cats screeching in the background, it's because the big one is currently bullying the little one and being a bit of a dick, to be honest, so that's why. With sevens here, again, I'm just going to c-bet because I have the best hand a lot, and I just think that I can get called by worse hands, any gut shot, any draw, like ace high, whatever the station wants to come along with. I also have position. I can check back the turn and control the size of the pot there if I need to and stuff like that. And taking it down is just obviously a great option. I'm going to go ahead and throw in a raise now just to make sure I can get this all in by the river if he starts checking. If I make it, I don't need to make it too big here, there aren't really too many draws, and draws don't have that much equity against me anyway. If I go ahead and make this 12 here, that puts in a very nice, easy river shove, basically. It's a scary line, but if my opponent's like a weaker player, which it looks like he is, I'm not really so bothered about it. If this was a regular, I'd probably just call again and allow him to fire 3 and balance my range, and blah blah blah, basically. Okay, so this guy donks pot here, which is kind of fun. I'm torn here between just flatting, which is like the standard line to let him barrel off and be dumb, or raising. I'm just going to flat. It sucks when like a king comes in the turn or something, like kills my action or whatnot, but it's pretty nice given that I can just allow him to keep barreling when I have like the effect of nuts. If I bet 750 here, all I'm thinking at this point is how do I get the rest of this money in. If I bet 750, I know the pot's going to be 25 on the turn minus rake, and he's going to have 23 left, so that's fine, but 8's a little bit better because it makes the pot a little bit bigger and makes my river bet give him a better price, basically, and seems to make it more likely that I can just take it down. Definitely we want to take a note that this guy donks pot and then gives up on the flop. It's a very good thing to know about it because it's basically, when someone donks pot on the flop, it's likely that they're very unbalanced with that line. Like, it's unlikely that he donks, that he's balanced enough to donk like all his top pairs and his strong hands and his draws and his air. He probably does it with a weak range of like draws and air, to be honest. So, and for the most part, not always the case. Some fish are kind of balanced and just like to do the same thing so no one can get a read on them. But yeah. Donk pot and give up on queen XX try. It's actually been a bit of a while since I've been grinding, just because I've been doing a full-time intensive teaching course and stuff. I'm going to do a bit of travelling at some point this year and teach some English and stuff like that, and still do some poker on the side. That's currently the plan, so it's been a lot of fun, but it's nice to be back at the tables again, to be sat in the comfort of my own home on a Monday afternoon, not having to get up at like 8 in the morning and work till like 11 at night. That night it's kind of nice just to chill a little bit. And fun, of course, to be back playing poker and grinding. Queen 2 suited is too weak to be in my 3-bit bluff range there. And 3s here, I'm just mucking. This guy donks, he's a station. He's not even donked yet, he's check folded once, which means that he doesn't just like donk all his air or anything. So I think we've got a very easy just give up there with like no equity at all. It'd be pretty spewy to do anything. Queen Jack's a very easy c-bet. One thing I've been doing more recently is just making my c-bet smaller. There's just no need for them to be very big on dry boards against regulars. The times when you have no pair and not very much equity come up far more frequently than the times that you have like a hand that you're going to bet 3 streets and try and get stacks in the river with. So it's good to save yourself money in these little spots. We get raised here. I don't know much about this guy right now. If I had a bit more equity, I would float here for sure. If I had like a backdoor draw, for instance, or just as much as that, I would float here. But this is close enough, I think, to the bottom of my range, even though I do have a backdoor straight draw and 2 overs, that I'm going to fold. And it's also 50 NL. I don't expect people to be check raising too crazily in these games. I thought I'd play 50s just because it's kind of, it's a nice, for me it's a nice simple game to get back into making a video with instead of playing 100s. And I also feel like I've done loads of 100 videos. And it's nice to do something at 50 as well and just mix up the sort of small stakes. And you can notice right now that I've not really got so much of a theme. I'm basically just iterating my in-game thought process to you guys while I'm playing, which is healthy. I think that every coach should do this once in a while. it's nice to have like series of videos, but it's also nice to, oh man, I can go either way here, like between flatting and, I mean, my position is just fairly bad. It is a 3x. I don't want to get cold called by this guy behind me too much. I'm going to go ahead and 3-bet. It's a little bit close. Usually it's a slam dunk 3-bet with Jack 9 there. It's going to be in my 3-bet range against like a tight looking player in the cutoff. The only thing that deters me a little bit is I have a fish ahead of me. If this fish was deeper, I would like flatting more, because then my position wouldn't be like such a terrible thing, because my implied odds are just so good that they negate that a good bit. But okay, now I'm going to fold, and I mean, yeah, this guy shouldn't be 4-betting too wide here. One, because there's a cold calling crazy guy here that's going to just get in my way if I'm 3-bet bluffing too much out of position. Whether he knows that or not, I have no idea. And two, I've not really done much yet, and neither has he over these 22 hands we've been together at this table, so yeah, I mean, I'm just going to fold. So yeah, I mean, I would definitely consider flatting there for a deeper with a fish, or if I was in the big blind, the fish had already called in the small blind, that'd be an incredibly easy flat. But as it is, when we're like not so deep, and we're not super thrilled about playing Jack 9 out of position there, with those stacks where our implied odds aren't as great against the fish, I think it's better just to be 3-betting and using that as a 3-bet bluff. We don't want to be 3-betting too much in that spot, but we can definitely 3-bet like the top of our folding range from a playability point of view. And Jack 9 of spades falls pretty nicely into that, I think. So what's coming up for me next? I was speaking to one of my students this morning, a guy called Jake, and we're going to be, if all goes well, we're going to be bringing you a series. I'm going to do I did this thing in my assignment, right? It made me kind of think about what I've been doing is learning to teach English, and it's kind of made me think a little bit about teaching in general and how to be a good coach, how to be a better coach, and how to be a better teacher, and what things I can do to just improve my skills as a teacher overall. And one of the things that a good teacher needs to be able to do is something that was illustrated in one of the assignments that we had to do for this course, which was called Focus on the Learner. And it basically involved taking a student who's not very good at English and finding where their main leaks lie, right? Again, an analogy to poker, isn't it beautiful? They had loads of leaks, this guy I was tutoring, I was doing my assignment on. For instance, he would use like pronouns really strangely, like incorrectly. He would say things like, oh, my girlfriend, her name is this, and you are 23 years old. And, you know, kind of confusing and causes a lot of dysfunction in communication, of course. So one of my things was to find where his main leaks lay. So it was like that thing and lots of other leaks as well. And try to basically fix them. So that's what I did. And I made like a document, like a paper about where his leaks lay, what exercises I could design to make him improve, and how we could basically develop him as a specific learner rather than just teaching sort of, you know, a class or everyone as if they're the same. You're really focusing in on one person and finding out where their strengths and weaknesses are, assessing their strengths, assessing their weaknesses, assessing what they do well and what they need to do better, and then guiding the future lessons and exercises and all of that to their specific profile as a learner, basically. I need to break up these cats because, yeah. These cats are so annoying, honestly. Like, start just beating the shit out of each other when I'm trying to record a video. It's not very, very useful. So I'm going to be doing that with my student Jake. We're going to be, in the first episode, we're going to be looking at his main strengths and weaknesses, sort of diagnosing it. And one thing is that in poker, self-diagnosis is also important, as well as diagnosis from your coach. So we're going to be looking at what he's doing wrong, and what he thinks he's doing wrong, what he thinks he needs to work on, and then comparing that with what I think he's doing wrong, what I think he needs to work on. Then we'll kind of strike a balance between those two things, those two approaches, and design the future lessons for him. And you'll see that be like a 3 or 4 part series, basically focusing in on one of my students, and then I'll do it with another one of my students at some other point in the future as well. So more incentive to sign up for coaching. Yay. Get some free lessons, which are going on Grinder School and should be instructive for everyone, all your peers in Grinder School and everything. So yeah, that should be fun. I'm looking forward to that. But today, in this card dead session of 4-tabling 50NL, we are just looking to play some hands and have some fun. and talk through our in-game thought process and listen to cats biting the hell out of each other in the background. I 3x because I just want more money to go into the pot pre-flop against this Bartoluvan 18 guy. I'm not super worried about being 3-bet anyway, because yeah, I have no reason to think anyone's totally out of line yet. I've got like one guy who's 3-bet once or something, or 3-bet twice or something, but it's not a big deal, it's a small sample, so yeah, I don't see any real drawback to 3xing there until we know that we're going to get punished for it. I'm going to open fives because we do have a target. A good thing to consider when you have like low pocket pairs in the first two seats is, do I have a target that I really want to flop a set against, or is the table just non-3-betty enough that I just take down the blinds a huge amount of the time? And I think, like, yeah, pretty much that's the case. This is interesting. Checking is not a terrible idea, but I'm going to go ahead and just bet pretty small here. Just start building the pot such that I can get it all in by the river. He goes ahead and min raises me. I've got a couple options here. Shoving is a disaster. I can click it back again and try and get more money into the pot. I quite like that. If I make this 8 here, let's see, that's going to put in 16, 19, kind of an awkward SBR, but it doesn't really matter, all the money is going to go in by the river anyway. So I can click this back, or I can call and like lead the turn or something weird like that. I think I just want to get more money in right now if he has like a draw, so I'm just going to click it back, plus a little bit. And then call it off against his drawing dead ace high. On table 3, I'm not going to do anything here. I'm just going to give up 4-way with the 4th pair. It's pretty terrible. I like to say goes berserk in these situations where he just sort of like flips out and shoves an ace high. Obviously he's just like tilted and a bit annoyed. I'm never going to see this guy again, chances are, but there's no harm taking a note. It doesn't cost you anything, so you may as well do it in case you do see him again. So it's very useful to know. Of course, against regs, it's even more important to take notes because you are going to see them again, chances are. Unless one of you moves up or down or whatnot and you start playing different games. But you're usually going to come across the same regs all the time, so it's good to mix it up. Blind versus blind here, a very easy 4-bet call with ace-queen. Make it a little bit on the big side out of position here. I don't really like to get flatted too much with queens. If I had like aces or kings, it sounds kind of weird to be like this unbalanced, but I could even make it smaller since he has just no idea what I'm doing from an exploitative point of view. I don't think there's anything really wrong with that. Nor do I think that he's going to get enough info from me to be able to adjust. He's a non-full stack weird guy. Like, it's fine if you want to actually just make it a bit bigger with queens or a bit smaller with kings or aces to try and induce more flats because you want them more when you have kings or aces. There's nothing really wrong with that right away, and you can always adjust again. This is like the kind of old school, really exploitative style, but it's fine if you don't think that people are going to make strategic adjustments to make your play bad. Well, they're not going to find out like what you're doing, obviously. If I was playing a competent villain that I play with all the time, a regular game that I'm just going to have loads and loads of hands with, and hence we're going to get really good reads on each other, then yeah, I want to be a little bit more consistent. But yeah, it's just something to think about. There are little spots where you can just get more of an exploitative edge by veering away from being like really balanced. You don't always need to be balanced at all. But it's good to know what it is to be balanced so that you can formulate a good strategy against the competent regs in your game and things like we did, you know, a range by range approach like we did in the last series that hopefully you guys have watched and enjoyed. Didn't really get too much feedback on that. I did from some of my students, but not publicly on the forums, so I hope that you guys also liked it like they did. And I'm going to go ahead and c-bet the ace-10 here. It's pretty easy c-bet. I'm bumping up to 3x here because that's like my standard heads up. I'm hoping this table fills out again because I don't really enjoy playing heads up whilst recording and 4-tabling at the same time. You can get a little bit frantic and the commentary a little bit rushed, so hopefully this will fill up, or else I'll maybe grab another table. You've got like these two sort of scared regs here just sitting out waiting for fish to come or whatever, I suppose. Yeah, pretty easy. Gonna bump up my sizing now, just targeting the queen X. My thought is that he's probably folding a lot of the things that isn't queen X here, and calling with any flush draw that he's backdoored or open-ender like 7-8 anyway, and calling with a queen anyway, but folding a lot of other stuff. And he takes like the death line here, which is like kind of worrying. Usually I just fold this spot, to be honest, without any info. It's usually the sign of extreme strength, like a hand like, I don't know, a set or ace queen or something like that. So I am near the top of my range here, but that doesn't really matter against what's probably a weaker player. It just takes quite a scary line. You'd have to be turning like a 7-8 or a 6x or something into a bluff now for me to be good, or like randomly have a float that's got a flush draw on the flop. And that's a little bit too far-fetched for me at 50NL without info against someone that looks to be a weaker player. This is kind of interesting with ace-jack. I'm going to go ahead and call here. This guy looks very active. I do have position on him, so I'm going to cold call and play post-flop, which I think is totally fine. 4-betting is like kind of meh. It's unclear whether it's for value or as a bluff. It's likely that we can get it in not very great shape. I mean, ace-jack is maybe ahead of his 3-bet range, but if we then 4-bet to get it in, ace-jack's probably not doing super well. So I'd like to just leave all his bluffs that I can potentially dominate in his range here. Take a flop, we have position. If it goes 3-way, I'm not really too bothered because we can actually not only dominate that guy, but we can dominate ace-10 here. I mean, this guy isn't actually... I'm going to make a nitty fold just because this guy isn't really opening very much and he is opening from under the gun here. I'm going to flat on the queen-jack X flop. Oops, I meant to open at a6. It was kind of a misclick on table 3. Oh well. Don't know much about this Pepe guy. I mean, he has the stats of like a really aggro fish or reg so far, but it's quite hard to say over this sample. He bets the turn small, which is like setting up a river shove pretty nicely, like a pot-sized shove. Well, not really actually. He's leaving a little bit too much behind. But I don't really think the sizing is bluffy, like ever, to be honest. He could have something like, I don't know, a turn diamond draw that he's trying to give himself a good price with or whatever. It's kind of close here between calling again or folding. I feel like I'm getting timed here quite a lot by calling the turn for this sizing that's just not really very bluffy. But then I'm getting like 4-1, but then I face river bets and stuff. I'm going to make like a nitty fold. It might be bad, it might be better just to call again there for that price and hope to get the showdown and then fold to like river shoves and stuff. But it's kind of like the sizing I don't really expect people to take as a bluff unless they're shipping the river. So I feel like calling turn, folding river is potentially kind of bad for those reasons. So yeah, I'm kind of happy with that turn fold actually. I feel like it is just a value hand a lot when he takes that sizing. And a 3-bet pot. I'm going to go ahead and squeeze ace queen. Pretty standard. I'm not really pumped about playing it out of position in a 3-bet pot. And I can for sure get called by some hands I'm doing well against, and I can pick up all the dead money, and I've got 2 good blockers, so like strong hands I could have. So pretty happy with that. We get like a gen flop here, which is nice. How to play this? Obviously I'm really happy to get all the money in here. It's like fine. I don't really want him checking back a hand like jacks here that has like some equity against me, and it's definitely calling a flop bet. If I bet like 8 here, then that's like 16-28. Nah. I could bet like 10 and put in 32 and then shove the turn or something like that, but I prefer actually just betting small when I've got like such a lock on the deck here, and I can juice this way and I can get money in over 3 streets instead of 2. I'm not afraid of any turn cards or anything like that. It's a little bit inconsistent because if I had like a set of queens here, I'd probably be going ahead and he raises here. I do expect his range to be quite strong. When we have the ace of hearts, we block the nut flush draws. I expect him to have like 10s and 9s here, like quite a bunch. But I still do have plenty of equity against those hands. If he's bluffing, I'm just trying to work out if I want to go ahead and like call here, or I think I'm just going to rip it in. Like it seems like the standard thing to do. Okay, so we actually get it in really good. See Feltz with just ace king, which is another reason why shoving is good if he is going crazy with like, he can have a lot of hands like pair plus draw, like king queen with the king of hearts. I didn't really expect just ace king. His draw is like kind of bad. I think his play is fairly bad as well. I think I much prefer just like a call in position in his shoes there. I think pre-flop is fine. He's just flatting like a tight player's early position open with ace king. I think that's alright. And he's flatting a squeeze with ace king. I think that's fine too. But he could for sure just 4-bet pre-flop and take it down a lot and be happy calling it off. That's maybe what I would do. Probably would 4-bet. And then on the flop, I think he should just be calling there. He's getting such an amazing price to see the turn and play a turn. And if he raises and gets shipped on, it kind of sucks for him because he's getting it in really dominated a lot when I have the ace of hearts plus a pair or a set or something like that. So yeah, I don't really love his play too much, to be honest. I'm going to go ahead and make a small 3-bet here against this guy for value. It's like a little bit thin, and often I would flat this hand, but I don't really love getting squeezed here. and yeah, I think I can, for sure, if I make it small enough, I can skew his range more towards calling rather than 4-betting me, hopefully. It will be a 3-bet fold. Because I'm making it smaller, I'm kind of discouraging 4-bets. And I don't really expect to get 4-bet all that much, so I am going to 3-bet fold there if he 4-bets me. Feel a little bit dirty about it, but I still think it's the best play since I can probably just isolate a range I'm doing well against in position in a 3-bet pot and avoid the situation where someone squeezes and I have to fold ace queen pre-flop or something like that. Standard sizing here is about half pot on all these textures with these stacks. That's simply because it gives me the best route to getting money in over 3 streets and sort of gives my bluffs a good price and, you know, keeps his range nice and wide over all streets so that I'm not like folding out too many of the hands that I'm getting value from. I think it's just optimal with my whole range, and it is a spot against a regular who seems like competent so far where I want to have some semblance of balance. Like, I don't want to be like doing one size with all my good hands and another with all my bad hands. It's a very easy not fold, pretty much. I can ship here and just get it in against draws. That seems like a nice option. Certain turns are a little bit problematic. If I flat like club turns, I don't know if I'm going to get bluffed if I start folding them. I think I can get it in against worse queens right now as well. Like, I could easily just be playing king queen this way or something like that. So it's between shipping and flatting here. Is he really going to continue bluffing if I flat here? I don't know. It's a little bit close. Okay, we'll flat. There aren't that many bad turns. That's one of them. I kind of just want to leave like some air in his range here. He does look kind of crazy. Honestly, I probably won't fold this turn. Even though it's a club, and it kind of does suck when he has a flush, but he looks pretty crazy so far. He doesn't seem to be the type that likes to fold very much, and that size is just so gross though. I mean, with that sizing, I kind of do want to fold. Like, if he just ripped it in, like, I would probably not fold, but against this sizing, I think it's like fairly face up that he's bluffing unless he's like leveling the absolute hell out of me. But I mean, I can have some flushes here as well if I decide to just flatten them and not jam them in. Honestly, against the sizing, it's just so like, it's like one spot that I will fold on the turn, okay? If it comes a club and he makes a ridiculous size, it's probably only for value. Like, he's an aggro player type, 52-45 so far, not folding very much. You know, check raising huge on the flop. It just screams of like he has a flush on the turn basically. He check raises so big on the flop, and then hand reading 101. Aggro player puts loads of money in on the flop, then the turn comes and he could easily shove, but he bets like a really scary value size. This, in my opinion, just weights his range quite largely towards flushes. It could be that it's better for me to actually ship the flop, but I like flatting just because if he is a little bit crazy, which he looks to be, then it gives me plenty of chance to allow him to sort of just bluff on all the turns that are great for me. Like, any kind of turn that's not club, basically, is really nice for me, or that isn't a king. Kings aren't even that bad. Like, I don't expect kings to be that big a part of his range. King X, that is. So I think that by flatting, I do just allow him to spew like mad on a lot of turns, and he could just be outright bluffing a bunch too. I don't know, man. I mean, that fold, I feel really dirty about it. It's like one of the only times I would fold in a 3-bet pot there against an aggro player is if the turn comes to the flush card and he makes such a terrifying bet size that totally goes against his player type if he had air. Like, if he's bluffing the flop with a draw, or like, if he's bluffing the flop, he makes it really huge, why does he suddenly then decide to bet like a third pot on the turn? Unless he's sophisticated enough to be trying to level me, which I highly doubt. It's just because his range is a lot stronger on the turn than it is on the flop. So it's one of the very rare situations that I would actually fold that hand at any point, basically. When I call flop, I am not planning on folding the turn unless he does something that makes me think I'm just crushed against his range like that. And it is like an estimate, I could be wrong, but in my experience, these kind of player types do not have much that I beat when they take that sizing, unfortunately. Yeah, I'm going to flat here with ace jack. I have the button and this limper seems to be fairly bad, and I'm happy playing a 3-way pot in position against him, leaving in the fish and leaving in all the dominated hands that the fish has. Seems pretty good to me. 3-betting to get it in, cut off versus button with ace jack seems a little bit thin to me. I don't really like it at all without more history, and we're just folding to the c-bet now. On table 4, this is the flop that does very well for my opponent's range. I'm going to make a delayed c-bet. I think if he checks again here, I'm going to bet and just try and fold out like his random ace highs and pocket pairs. Give myself like a pretty good price to do so. I do have some equity, like a jack makes me the nuts, king makes me the best hand, some percentage. And I play a lot of sort of weak queen x and sort of jacks and 10x like that, so it's a good spot for a delayed c-bet. With the assumption that this kind of passive random player is not going to like blast at this with like pocket 7s on the turn. Yeah, I don't think I have quite enough equity to c-bet the flop because it's too good for his range, but if he doesn't bet the turn on such a dry board, that says a lot, and then a delayed c-bet on the turn should have a very high EV because he's defined his range such that I can get a lot of folds from it, basically. Go ahead and 3-bet with ace 5. I want to isolate this guy. I have him tagged purple, which means spazzy fish usually. So yeah, I'm happy just isolating him, and I don't want to get squeezed by this Alex Pless guy either. Very much. A few things I can do here. The most standard thing to do is just to bet fold. Check calling I do not like because the board is going to get very tough for me to play with ace 5. I could check raise and just try and get the money in against his air and stuff like that, and just allow him to like. He has a lot of hands here that are just like random overcards. I'm not going to be looking to. Okay, let me get like a king on the turn. He insta-flats the flop, which is usually the sign of some kind of draw, some kind of medium pair plus draw, that kind of thing. And this is like quite a weird spot now, to be honest. No, I'm going to time down. Oh man, okay, we'll check here. I was obviously going to c-bet that flop on table 4 with the gutter, but then my keypad was not in the right place and it confused the hell out of me. That's 15 on this turn, like it's kind of like gross, like he just has like a flush draw all the time, but I think we just can't really stack here, unfortunately, with a pair of 5s. We're kind of c-betting, just hoping to take it down. And the king does hit some of his range, like his random overcards with a backdoor draw and stuff like that. It's kind of close, actually, between just shipping this and folding. I'm going to fold. I don't think it's like so clear. This is an easy ship, however, against the fish here on a wet board with ace queen. You can just have so much stuff there. So many worse queens, so many random draws and things like that. And I want all the money just going in right now before a heart comes and makes it the case that I can only get it in bad, basically. Cat's climbing all over the keyboard. So unfortunately we get squeezed here by an active player so far. But he's squeezing against a fish. I think shipping or 4-bet calling here is like ridiculously bad. And we just don't have the odds to call. If the fish was also deep, it would be closer, or if he'd squeeze smaller, it would be closer. Ace king cut off versus button, very easy 4-bet to get in here. And king 10 is close from the small blind. I'm going to go ahead and flat it because I think Pepe's like spewy and bad, and I don't think that the big blind Juanto, who has only 37 bucks in a stack, is going to be particularly squeezy. So it is loose, but it's basically because I think it can play very well against Pepe's ridiculously wide opening range, and I think that the big blind is just not really going to get in my way there at all. And again, 3xing on table 2 with a fish in the blinds from all spots, basically. And giving up to the c-bet here. I think Pepe's probably like the kind of bad to aggressive reg, possibly. Seems more like that than a fish. I don't know. Strange player type. Not one that you really run into all the time. I'm just going to leave him untagged for now until I've got a better idea. So it could go either way. He could be like a fish that's playing a bit reggy, or he could be a reg that's playing a bit fishy. It's kind of hard to say, but either way I don't think he's like too competent. Unless he's just set good and just owns me with his turn sizing, repping the nuts really well. He's probably watched my ground scope videos and knows that I give immense amounts of respect to people who make a big flop raise and then bet the turn small when a scare card. Like, such a good way to like level and own someone like me, so I'm just going to hope that no one does that. I don't think they do. Okay, pocket 8s here. I'm going to go ahead and call. A little bit marginal with 7s, I would just fold probably. I don't want that hand in my 3-bit bluff range, nor do I really want it in my calling range, because I just have to give up way too much. My set odds aren't very good. On this turn, I'm going to go ahead and take a stab at this, basically with 8s. I think I can get him to fold hands like 9s through jacks, which are better hands, and are also hands that have plenty of equity against me. That I don't want to just take a free card and then like bet the river and make me fold, or bet the turn and make me fold. Like, it just sucks to surrender the pot there to like ace jack or something, when you can just bet and take it down, or bet and then check river and get the showdown and win, or something like that. Like, a lot of people will look at that spot and think, well, most of his better hands are going to continue and most of his worse hands are going to fold. But that said, what has the higher EV? When you check, you don't always get the showdown. Sometimes you lose the pot, and you can actually get called by worse hands like jack 10, jack 9, ace jack sometimes by betting the turn. And you can also get better hands to fold like 9s through jacks, which form a significant part actually of a tighter player's range, which this guy is. Not like a significant part, but a more significant part of his range than he would of someone who was opening more hands, basically. So yeah, definitely a lead on the turn there, and that's a spot I think people tend to play wrong quite a lot, and it's a very common spot as well, so it's one worth noting for sure. How long have I been recording for? Not long, man. Feels like ages. I think I'm just not used to grinding so much. So yeah, I'm pretty pumped about this new series that's coming up. It should be pretty fun to see. I'll give you guys a chance to see how coaching works, because coaching is about focusing on the learner, and it's about sort of finding the right approach for each of your students. Each one is different, each one learns differently. You get different types of poker learner. You get ones who learn very well by doing loads of sweat sessions and just having you sitting over their shoulder and implementing your thought process like kinesthetically as they play. And you get ones who benefit from loads of homework exercises and having loads of time to analyse away from the tables and stuff like that. So, you know, each student is different, each one has different interests and goals and needs, and it'll be fun to sort of show you guys how I would go about helping one, basically. And this is a guy I've only done like one session with. I've done a little bit of range analysis work with, but apart from that, still relatively new to my coaching, so I don't have like an extensive history helping them, so I'm still at the diagnostic part of coaching, where you diagnose your students' leaks and then look to do something about them. I'm going to go ahead and 4-bet call 10s here, because we just have a very aggro dynamic. Go 11.85 here with my range, I think is good. You get min 5-bet, that changes nothing for me. Especially when he could actually min 5-bet fold here. It's like not out with the realms of possibility. It's unlikely, but even so, I have decent equity against like his value range here as well. So pretty easy shit for me, especially at 50 NL blind versus blind, where there's history and there's like aggro stats on the HUDs. I think that generally here, people these days will sometimes 5-bet fold. Wow, I've run good in these splits. Maybe bink a second 10? No. Yeah, running good with the run it twice today. But yeah, I don't like the big 5-bet, the small 5-bet rather. I think it's kind of like, blah. Maybe rather you just shoved, but now that 5-bet folding is actually something that happens, especially at 100 and 200, there is no way I'm changing my plan there with 10s. The reason I don't flat the 3-bet, by the way, is just that it's an absolute fucking nightmare to try and play that hand against someone confident on so many different runouts. I mean, you get people who will say things like, man, just call and play poker. And they seem to think, they like to use this phrase, play poker, as if it's that easy to just know what to do in every situation when you have far from any good information and you're out of position and your opponent seems to be a competent reg and you have a hand that always flops like mediocre strength stuff on so many flops. So it's one thing to sit there and say, play poker, as if implying that, you know, you can be great in this spot and the poster of the hand obviously isn't skilled enough to do it and should learn to play poker instead of just 4-betting. But at the end of the day, I firmly believe that 4-betting has the highest EV there, because you will make so many mistakes. Whether you can quote unquote play poker or not, you're going to make a lot of mistakes there out of position on so many textures. You're not going to be comfortable there regardless of who you are, basically, unless you have some kind of information or plan, or a more relevant dynamic to sort of know this guy's tendencies. I got 52 hands on him. I am not going to fold to the 3-bet. I think it's plus EV to 4-bet and get it in, and I don't think that calling the 3-bet out of position there, blind versus blind, is more plus EV than just 4-betting. Especially when people can 5-bet fold or can shove over worse pairs and can just fold a bunch to your 4-bet and you pick up so much dead money. Another common mistake people make in that spot is they say, oh, well, you're 4-betting, like, what are you hoping to get value from? What hands are you hoping to make him fold? Which on the surface is not like a bad criticism of the line, but what they fail to grasp there is that the dead money has such a humongous effect on EV. So it could well be that his getting it in range is only jacks plus ace king, which is doing rather well against me, and he's folding everything else. But that, even if that's the case, if he's folding enough of the time, it might still be plus EV for me to 4-bet call it off with 10s there, and it'll be better than 4-bet folding as well because of all the dead money that's in the pot. I might only have 38% equity, but by the time it comes to calling his final 5-bet shove, it'll be a call and not a fold, and the 4-bet is pretty much going to be plus EV when it takes down dead money of 3-bet so often. And then we still have sort of survivable equity when we do have to get it in. Is that better than flatting? I would say so. In almost all situations where you don't have reads and you're out of position and you have a hand that's vulnerable and it's difficult to play on so many textures as 10s, that's why 4-bet calling is the best line there. And I want to explain that because people tend to go very wrong in that spot and sort of analyse it as if it's like whether they should bet the river, only better hands are folding, only worse hands are only better hands are calling, only worse hands are folding type thing. It doesn't really apply there when there's so much dead money. It's more about what is the actual EV, and doing an EV calc will show you that. It's hard as well to calculate the EV of flatting blind versus blind to the 3-bet in that spot. It's very difficult to know what that is, but my gut instinct is that it is less than the plus EV-ness of 4-betting there. You guys can run an EV calc for the 4-bet call line, giving him a range of like ace king, jacks plus, and you should see that if you give him enough 4-bet, 3-bet folds there, that we are going to be plus EV. And then, yeah, it's going to be very hard to estimate the EV of flatting, but my instinct is that when we don't flop a set, it's pretty grim for us and we lose like a fair bit in that spot on average when we don't flop a set, and that's going to be, you know, most of the time. I'm reverting to a min raise now because our short stack there, our fish on table 3 is now shorter, so I'm not really so happy about 3-betting and then having to fold to his 3-bets and his shoves if he makes them. Yeah. Although if he is very fit or fold to c-bets, it might still be better just to go ahead and 3x, because we pick up so much money when he doesn't connect with the flop and we do, etc. Very easy bet 3 streaks for value here. If we make it 350, this is how I work this out. There'll be 12 in the pot and he'll have like, yeah, like 950 behind, so that seems like a pretty good size. I'm going to make it like 370. Sets up a pretty ideal river situation. Not the best river card, but still I think I have to shove here because he can have a lot of worse one pair hands he's never folding, like Jack X basically. I've seen that he's stationary before. Could even just have like a random King X or an 8 or something and not fold, so with 2 pair here I do have to shove this for value for sure. And embrace the variance at times he has 2 pair or a backdoor flush or whatnot. Open my can of Iron Brew, which is once again the most famous and awesome of Scottish beverages. Soft beverages, that is. So ace-6 here, blind versus blind against the fish. Flop in a flush draw plus a pair. That's a pretty nice situation for us. He looks passive. If he was like aggro, I would like check raise here as pre-flop raiser and allow him to pile money into the pot with a hand with poor equity against me, and then just get loads of money in the flop while my equity is always going to be amazing. That would be my plan. But against someone more passive and stationary looking, I just want to start betting for value with all my huge amounts of equity. Jack 8-4 when I have absolutely no equity, I'm gonna just check back here and give up on a lot of turns. If I get like a really good turn and he checks again, I'll probably delete c-bet, but yeah, I'm happy giving up on that board when I have such poor equity. It's very close to the bottom of my range, and I don't want to be c-betting a really high amount of the time on a board that's good for my opponent's range and not so great for me, so yeah. And I'll 3x here again because we have a weaker player in the big blind. I'll play this hand probably and then I'll wrap up for today's session. Stay tuned though for my coaching one-on-one leak finding series that's about to commence. And let me know if you've got any other ideas, things you'd like to see less or more of at Grinder School. It's always nice to know what you guys want to do. Very quickly on table 3, I typically lead here because check calling is just very awkward on a board that's going to get much worse for a second pair here. It's going to become third pair in the turn almost always. At this point I can sort of give up here, or I can like turn my hand into a bluff and bet like a few streets. I'm going to just check fold now. I think that's a pretty good river for me. Small value bet comes to mind here. He can have some sevens in his range, but I can definitely get called again by like some random pair or something like pocket 8s, I don't know. I shouldn't make it too big though. At least that folds, so whatever. Okay guys, questions or comments as always, leave them for me on the thread, and I'll see you guys soon. Thanks very much.